إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. Before we get started, I kindly request from my respected brothers, especially the youth in the back, to please come and join us here in the front so that we can keep the space in the back for those who will come later, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you. Respected brothers, respected sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وآلاف التحية والسلام على نبينا نبي الرحمة محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. والبراءة من أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. اللهم أنطقني بالهدى وألهمني التقوى ووفقني للتي هي أزكى. اللهم وأخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم وافتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما واخفض لهما جناح الذل من الرحمة وقل رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. And your Lord has decreed that you do not worship except Him, and to parents good treatment. Whether one or both of them reach an old age, say not to them so much as uff, and do not repel them, but speak to them in noble words, and lower to them the wing of humility out of mercy, and say, my Lord, have mercy upon them as they brought me when I was little. The status of parents is so unique in Islam, such that Allah, glorified and exalted, has joined their rights with His rights. قَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And your Lord has decreed that you do not worship except Him, and to parents you show kindness or good treatment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is joining the right of the parents alongside His very special right of exclusive worship. Observing the duty and the obligation of birrul walidain, especially those who are older, which require a higher degree of birr, a higher degree of kindness. Observing this very important obligation is not only an obligation that engenders abundant reward in the hereafter, but it is also one of the widest gates of success in this life. There used to be a young man from the children of Bani Israel, and this young man used to engage in business dealings. He would buy and sell things. And one day, he made a good sale. But in order to complete the sale, he has to go and take out the commodity, whether it was one of the cattle or something that he had to take out so that he can give it to the customer. But when he went inside the home to find the key to the storage, the key happened to be under the pillow on which his father was taking a nap. So he decided that because my father is taking a nap, I don't want to disturb his nap. I will just go and cancel the sale. So he goes outside and he cancels the transaction. And when he comes back and his father finds out that this is what he has done, his father was very proud of him, and he says, as a thank you, as a way of appreciating what you have done by allowing me to have my nap, and you sacrificed your transaction, I will gift you a very precious cow that I have. A yellow cow. This yellow cow later was the cow that was purchased by one of the clan of Bani Israel to fulfill the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He commanded Musa to slaughter a cow. And the story that is quoted and related in the chapter Al-Baqarah. In fact, this Baqarah in Surah Al-Baqarah is that very yellow cow that was gifted to this young man from the children of Bani Israel. In the Islamic law and legal system, parents must be obeyed by their children. And there is no age by which a child can say that I no longer have to obey my parents. However, this obedience on a jurisprudential level has certain restrictions. Well, number one, we know that there is no obedience to a creation at the expense of disobeying the Creator. Meaning that if the parents have to command their child to do that which is in violation of divine law, of course there's no obedience in this case. But anything outside of that is to the parents over their children. They have the right to say, obey me. However, the restriction is as follows. The command that the parents issue to the child must be a command that stems from their compassion over that child. If my father tells me, I don't want you to eat this specific food, because they fear for me and that this food, if I were to eat it, it's not in the best of my interest and it would hurt them that I eat this kind of food, and it's not necessary for me to eat that food, then at that point I must succumb to my father's wish or my mother's wish. But if they ask me to do something that stems from their ego and it has nothing to do with my interest and no compassion for me in the command that they have issued, then of course here I'm not obligated to fulfill that command. And this goes for many, many other examples in our daily life. Traveling, relocating, doing different things, to the extent that even when we choose to get married, for example. Not to say that the parents have ultimate control over their children. There is a balance. But there are certain things that if a child does, and the parents are distressed as a result of, then that becomes something that the child must avoid, and they must succumb to their father or mother or parents' wish in this regard. When we talk about the kindness to parents, what is exactly kindness that must be observed in the case of our parents, especially those who are elderly? Kindness to parents is not a very difficult concept to explain or to define. Anything that is considered a form of kindness in eyes of common view, such as honoring them, respecting them, offering them the assistance before they even request it. We have a hadith that stress this important issue, is that don't wait for your parents to come and ask you for help. Rather, you should be mindful of what their needs are, and you should go and offer them that help. Be it financial, be it emotional, be it whatever it may be. Anything that they would need, the child must be the first one to offer that type of help and service to their parents. Most importantly, to humble ourselves before our parents and to treat them in the best way that we want to be treated. The bottom line that we should always remember is, how do we expect or want our children in the future to treat us? This is the same way, and even better, we want to show our parents in terms of treatment. There are different examples that I want to quote here or cite of situations where the child is considered aaq. Now, uququl walidain is the opposite of birrul walidain. Now, uquq comes from aqqa ya'uq. Aq means to cut, to sever. Hence we call the animal that is slaughtered after a child's born, what do we call it? Aqiqah. Comes from aq because it was cut, it was slaughtered. So uquq al-walidain is when somebody cuts that tie and that bond and that level of respect that needs to be shown and given to the parents. Uquq has many different examples. And unfortunately, in today's world, we find that this uquq has become normalized in different communities, where you find children who don't find any hesitancy of hiring their voice over their parents' voice, or speaking to them in a very harsh tone. They think that's normal. Don't I have the right to express my opinion with my parents? You have the right to express your opinion. You have the right to get into a discussion with your mother or with your father. But that must be done within the mannerism of Birrul Walidain, within the akhlaq of Islam. One day, one of the companions of our beloved sixth Imam, Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, I was at the house with my elderly mother, this companion by the name of Ibrahim, and he says we got into this discussion and the argument became a little bit heated, so I spoke to my mother in a harsh tone. And the argument or discussion ended. Second day, when I went to my Imam, my sixth Imam, peace and blessings be upon him, as soon as I said Assalamu alaikum when I entered, he right away told me, and because we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gifted the Imams the special knowledge, he right away told me, "Oh Ibrahim, what made you speak to your mother with harshness last night?" And then he looks at him and he says, "Ibrahim, did you not know that her stomach was a home for you at one point? Did you not know that her lap was a cradle for you? Did you not know that her chest was a vessel through which or from which you were fed? Never go back to this practice of using harsh words with your mother or harsh tone." The A'immah alayhim salam look at this as a crime, a grave sin, because it's an example of uquq. And we know uquq is one of the gravest and greatest sins after ash-shirku billah and the qatl al-nafs al-muhtarama. Other examples of uquq is to cause one's parents distress. There are different decisions that we take in life, and these decisions sometimes result in the distress of our parents. To the extent that Islam wanted to preserve this very special respect and honoring of parents and prevent this uquq from happening, it says that if a person is traveling and in their travel they're causing their parents distress, they don't have the permission to pray their salah shortened. And if it's the month of Ramadan, they don't have the permission to break their fast. This is how far Islam takes it in order to preserve the status of parents and to maintain that respect. Our Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, in numerous ahadith, when he discusses the haqq of walidain, the right of the parents, he stresses the importance of two things. Number one, know that anything that you have in this life could not have been possible without your parents, because they are the means and they are the intermediary between Allah and between you in terms of existence. Had your parents not been there, you would not existed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this world through a chain of causes and effects, and they are the cause that was between you and between the previous causes that led to you. So that is number one. And number two, to know that however we treat our parents today, in that same exact way our children will treat us in the future. We may sometimes think that it's okay, my mother or father didn't really get hurt. One thing to share, and parents know this, parents try their best to not express their pain to you at all times. Most of the time when they're in pain, they try to hide it. It's the other way around, where children usually express their pain to their parents and want them to sympathize with them, whereas parents try their best to cover as much as they can from their pain so they don't show it to their children. So don't think that just because you had this discussion with your parent and you became a little bit aggressive in how you conveyed your point, and they didn't show you that they are very stressed or distressed, that they are not stressed or distressed by this. They just were covering it out of love and compassion for you. Our beloved Imam Zayn al-Abidin wa Sayyid al-Sajidin alayhi salam, has a dua in As-Sahifa As-Sajjadiyya known as Dua Birrul Walidain. Dua number 24, if you want to refer to it. It's a very long dua in which our Imam teaches us through this dua how to behave with our parents. I'll quote 4 of these verses in this dua. He says, Allahumma khaffid lahuma sawti. Oh Allah, make my voice lower in their presence. And by extension, the tone. A lot of times, my dears, we don't pay attention to the tone in which we speak. Whether it's with each other, with our spouses, with our friends, but especially with our parents, that tone needs to change. And we need to have to practice and exercise this. Some people unfortunately speak to their parents the same way they speak to their friends in school. They even call them by their name. Well, I know commonly maybe in this Western culture it's not a taboo to call your father or mother by their name, but Islamically it is. Islamically, one of the rights or one of the etiquettes that children should observe with their parents is to never call them by their name and to never walk before them unless it is at night and it is out of protection. But in normal situations, the son or the daughter, the child, should never walk ahead of their parent. Now, someone might look at me with a very Western mentality and say, what does this mean? So what? I have respect for myself. I don't have to be always walking behind somebody else. This is not somebody else. This is your parent. This is the reason why you exist today. One day there used to be a son and a father. And this son, and this is a true story, he used to, in the US, he used to be so humble with his father that whenever his father came from work, he would rush to his father, kiss his hand, and he would take his father's shoes off for him. His father wasn't that old that he needed somebody to take off their shoes, but this child wanted to show their father the respect and gratitude. So one day this non-Muslim friend happened to be there of that child. And he thought that this was something absolutely absurd. He says to him, why would you let your father treat you like this? He says, what do you mean? He says, he's humiliating you. You're going down and you're kissing his hand and you're taking his shoes off. He says, my father doesn't make me do that. I choose to do that out of love and respect for my father. So sometimes, unfortunately, we tend to fall in this Western mindset of, well, me, my father, we're both human beings. You know, we're both equal to each other. Yeah, we're equal in humanity, but there's that special level of respect that must be observed with our parents and how we speak to them and how we convey our points to them. You want to convey a point to them? Even when it comes to Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar, if my mother or father is committing a sin and I have to go and enjoin the good and forbid the evil, I must practice the best of way and best of manner in relating it to them. Albeit if it's done indirectly, it might be better without coming directly, just to not hurt their feelings to that extent. Allahumma khaffid lahuma sawti wa atib lahuma kalami, and make my words kind to them. Always choose the best of words when you want to speak to them. Wa alin lahuma arikati, and make my temper lenient towards them. Lenient, not harsh, not rigid, lenient. وَأَعْطِفْ عَلَيْهِمَا قَلْبِي, and make my heart affectionate towards them. Treat them with mercy. One of the حقوق that they have upon us is dua. وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. I'd like to invite our respected and dear Al-Hajj Hussein, respected and dear Hajja Batul Najfi. Please come to the panel, inshallah, for the Juz digest. Ya Allah. Ya Allah. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. So, dear Hajj Hussein, you want to start us off with Juz 6, Surah An-Nisa. I believe Surah An-Nisa, Juz 6. Yes.
So actually we are going into the last part of Surah An-Nisa as well as going into the first part of Surah Ma'idah, which is the Surah of the table.
Correct.
Which is the 5th Surah of the Holy Quran. So in Surah An-Nisa, one of the things that is being discussed in the Holy Quran is the disobedience of the Jewish people of that time. And the planning they did of killing Hazrat Isa alayhi salam. The surah talks about it. And the fact that they did try to hang Hazrat Isa, as we see many times.
Crucified. Right?
Yes, yeah. Crucified. As we always see that sort of a thing in many Christian homes, or on the necklaces of the Christian families, that this is how Jesus Christ or Hazrat Isa was crucified. But the Quran talks about this particular issue and the fact that they tried, and the person that was actually killed in the place of Hazrat Isa was a different person altogether. It had nothing to do with Hazrat Isa himself.
It was the person who tattletaled.
Yes.
He went to them and said, I know where he is. They're like, okay, so take us. And when they went there, what happened is Allah miraculously made him look exactly like Isa, and he was crucified instead. Yes, Hajj Hussein.
So don't go behind somebody, an honest person, trying to mess up his life, because it'll come and haunt you. That's what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying.
Ahsan. Now, as far as Bani Israel, or some of the Jewish community, as Hajj Hussein mentioned, not only plotted the killing or wanted to kill Isa alayhi salam, but they killed thousands of their prophets, including Yahya alayhi salam. Yahya was slaughtered the same way our beloved Imam Hussein was slaughtered. So, in terms of the Surah Al-Ma'idah, Al-Hawariyun, Hajj Batul, they asked Isa for something, if you can reflect on that. The Hawariyun, who were the disciples of Isa alayhi salam.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
In Surah Ma'idah, we have an ayah which talks about, actually there are 3 ayahs from 112 to 115, which talk about the Hawariyun, the disciples of Prophet Isa, who asked Prophet Isa a question and the question was that, and I'm reading in English so that we understand what it is. And it says, when the disciples said, O Isa, son of Maryam, is your Lord able to send down to us food from heaven? So basically they were looking food from heaven, but the way they asked became a question mark. Is your Lord able to do it? And that was kind of, so many Mufassirin have talked about it and worked on it, Why they said able? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has all the power, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not that He does not have ability to do anything. So He is able. And these disciples before this ayah had also proclaimed their faith to Prophet Isa and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they were believers, and why would they ask? So Prophet Isa told them, fear Allah and do not ask in such a way. Fear Allah and do not ask in such a way, because somebody is looking at the ability of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the creator, who is the giver of everything. And when Isa told them, Prophet Isa, that how come you are asking in such a... how come you are asking is my words to explain, but he asked them that you are asking such a question, and they said that we would like to eat that food, and we want to satisfy our hearts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now these are the same disciples who have already seen the miracles of Prophet Isa. These are the same disciples. They were like his friends. And how come they are asking for such a question, and they want a miraculous way from the heaven so that the food comes from the heaven? And that's why it is called Maida. Maida means table. It also means a plate where the food is. So they are asking in such a way. And when they insisted, because it's very long, I'm cutting short just for us to get the gist of it, to understand it. So when Prophet Isa saw that they are insisting on that, although they are claiming that they believe and that they want to eat the food and they want to be the witness that the food came down.
Yes.
Yeah? They want to be the witness also. So now, the beauty in this ayah, one ayah here, which I'll read to you again in English, the beauty is that Prophet Isa saw how they questioned, but when he fulfilled their request by asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is in a different way. His dua is in a different way. And that's what I want to read to you and to show to you how he prayed for his people. If you can just give me 1 second.
So basically he was trying to teach them, right, how to speak and request from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without doubting his ability and doubting the fact that he's capable of doing anything. Yes.
So shall I just
Yes, please. No, please.
So Isa, the son of Maryam, said, O Allah, our Lord. Now you see, he's saying two things. He's saying, one, Allah. Then he's saying, our Lord, Rabbuna. Then he's saying, send down to us food from heaven, which should be to us an ever-recurring happiness. In Arabic, it is written Eid, recurring happiness, to the first ones and to the last of us. And also is saying, it is a sign from you. And grant us sustenance. He just didn't say food. He's talking about the sustenance, the risk. And you are the best of providers. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts that dua of Prophet Isa and says, surely I will send it down to you. And he gives a condition. And the condition was that if somebody goes, even after the food comes down, the request is granted. But if somebody turns back, now again, these are just the words of explanation, not from the ayah. The explanation, he will give them severe punishment. That after all what Allah accepted and their request and sent it down to them, the food, and then they turn back again, they will get severe punishment.
Ahsantum. The very unique thing also about Surah Al-Ma'idah, it begins with the verse of Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu awfu bil uqud. O you who believe, fulfill your contracts. Contracts are very important in Islam. They must be respected with one condition, as long as they don't encompass a condition that makes something lawful, unlawful, or vice versa, makes something unlawful, lawful. As long as the condition is not a haram condition, then the agreement must be respected with whomever it may be, a Muslim or a non-Muslim. Hajj Hussein, there is also in Surah Al-Ma'idah, in the first 3 verses, when it talks about tahrim, the unlawfulness of khinzir and dam, then it goes to say, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي. Today I have perfected your religion for you. Today I have completed my favor upon you. Can you highlight that verse for us just to...
So, although we don't have much time, it's only 1 minute, and I know the ladies would like to have 5 more minutes, but very quickly, this particular ayah refers to the event of Eid al-Ghadir. When at that time the Holy Prophet had shown the people who was to lead after his death, and of course that was also ignored by some of the people. But beautifully, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, I have completed the religion of Islam. That means that completion of the religion of Islam came after the fact that Mawla Kainat Hazrat Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam was declared the person who was to lead after the Holy Prophet. And that was the completion of the religion, basically.
Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense that religion was completed by the ruling that pork is haram. Well, that's like one of the most, basic rulings in Islam, right? But that wouldn't be the reason why Allah would say, Al-Yawma. This day, this very special day, means that something big must have happened, as Hajj Hussein has alluded to. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Thank you, Hajj. Thank you so much. Thank you, Hajj. Thank you. Thank you, Ahsan. Thank you so much. Ahsan. Jazakallah khair, inshallah.